But let's start with the Padres and the Mets game because, look, this game was in New York. This is do or die for the New York Mets. They lost game one with Max Scherzer on the mound. Now you have Jacob deGrom on the mound. You're feeling good about yourself, but guess what? He gives up a home run early, ties the game. Trent Grisham's apparently the best player in baseball right now. But the Mets end up pulling it out thanks to a huge seventh inning. They score 4 runs in the seventh inning, opening the door. A lot happened in this game that we're going to dive into because some big talking points here. Mets break it open in the seventh. Jacob deGrom still hit around a little bit, but the big thing for me, the Mets might not have scored a ton of runs super early, but they got to Blake Snell. They put a bunch of pitches in him. He wasn't able to get through the fourth inning, through 3 1/3, had close to 100 pitches already at that point in the game. So he comes out in the fourth inning, and my one thought goes to this Padres bullpen that is not great has a lot of outs to get. Sure enough, they did have a lot of outs to get, and they didn't get them all as they needed to. Mets break it open in the seventh. They needed that. It was almost like you just kept waiting. When are they gonna get going? Like, they're the favorite in this series. The Padres obviously throwing out Blake Snell and Yu Darvish, 2 great arms, but the Mets just weren't doing much. That seventh inning seemed to be when everything turned around for the Mets, and they finally got going. What a game. And this one is happening again on Sunday. So game 3 is coming Sunday, but what a game that we just witnessed, just came to a close.
They needed that. After game 1 yesterday, I think this Mets-Padres, and we talked about it when we went through the brackets, all the wild card games coming up, I had mentioned, like, this was my favorite little corner that anything could. I honestly, I thought the other games were going to go the other way. I was very wrong on a lot of these wild card games. But this Padres-Mets matchup was kind of everything I was hoping for. Yesterday, not what I was expecting, was Scherzer getting completely lit up. Like, to a point that was just so uncharacteristic, back-to-back outings for him.
Yeah. First Mets pitcher in history to give up 4 home runs in a playoff game.
Not only that, but 7 earned runs was the most he has ever allowed in a playoff game for Scherzer in 22 starts, and only the second time in MLB postseason history a pitcher has allowed 7 runs and 4 home runs in a single game. The first time that happened was Gene Thompson in 1939. And this is by one of the best pitchers in the game. So shocking game 1 for the Mets. This was a big redemption game that they needed in game 2. And it's going to be fun. Like the rubber match, we're getting one game on Sunday, which I'm so happy we're actually getting a game.
I'm excited it's this game, too.
Yeah.
Like, this feels good.
It's going to be fun. Because as we've seen, anything can happen in this wild card series. Like, we got a wild weekend here. Like, it has been madness.
It has been in this series alone. You know, the Mets lose game 1. You don't feel good about it, but you feel good about having Jacob deGrom coming back out and having him game 2. Jacob deGrom hasn't looked like Jacob deGrom in the last month or so. He hasn't been fantastic, but he comes out in the first inning, punches out Juan Soto on 102 miles an hour, went 101, 101, 102, punched him out. So you think he's locked in. And then the very next inning, he gives up a home run to Trent Grisham. And you're like, oh, no, what is going to happen here? Could this really happen? Because, you know, you really start to think about it. From the time Jacob deGrom came back off of the IL and starts heading into tonight, in games started by Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom, the Mets were 10-11. I mean, these are your guys. This is what your team is built around. They just hadn't been good. They've been fine, but for whatever reason, they're not winning a bunch of ball games, but he ends up throwing pretty well. They go to Edwin Diaz really early.
7th inning. That caught me a little off guard. I'm totally down for the 6-out save. Like that's common, very common for a closer, a good closer, your best arm in the bullpen. But coming in the 7th inning, that means you're most likely not going to have him in the spot as bread and butter in the 9th inning when and if you need him.
Yeah.
Plus, he sat for like 45 minutes.
Well, it's mind-blowing how they used him. I am okay. Look, you have one great elite bullpen bullet, okay? If you happen to use it in the 7th inning, fine, but use it with bases loaded, 2 outs, bring him in and then throw him the next inning. To bring him in with a clean slate with nobody on base, what was the plan there? You had 9 outs to still get, right? So you're going to have to get outs from somebody else. Why not use Ottavino there and then have Edwin Diaz later in the game? You end up bringing him in the 7th. The one thing I can think of is that they had the top of the lineup due up, but they were going to be again in the 9th as well, most likely. So you bring him in the 7th, which is a little bit of a head scratcher, but fine. You got to assume you're going to get 2 innings out of him, and then hopefully you can score in that time. But then that first inning happens, the 7th inning.
Yeah.
They score 4 runs. Edwin Diaz was sitting, like you said, 45 minutes. That's a lot for a starting pitcher to sit, much less a closer that's used to throwing 1 inning, not going back to
and
sit down.
Done.
And exactly.
Yeah.
1 inning and you're done. He goes back in the dugout. He sits down for 45 minutes, and then you bring him back out with a 5-run lead, knowing you're going to need him tomorrow. And I'm not much of a, well, you got to save him for tomorrow. Look, there is no tomorrow unless you win. But reason number 1 to not bring him back out is because he just sat down for 45 minutes. I tweeted this in the moment. Absolutely ridiculous that Edwin Diaz is coming back out. For multiple reasons. 1, he hasn't thrown a pitch for 45 minutes. 2, you now have a big lead. And 3, there's another game tomorrow. Number 1 being by far the most important. Obviously, winning this game is a must. But this is shocking. And I will say that was a shocking moment for me.
It was. It can also be dangerous. So when you have a guy who's getting up, pitching, used to being done for the night and going through his like end of game routine. Now you have him sitting for 45 minutes. If he gets back up, he's not warming up again. It's not something he's used to. That's when injuries can happen.
Yeah.
And this is your guy. This is your number 1 arm in the bullpen, closes out games, gets you your saves, and you're putting him in the 7th and a couple outs in the 8th inning.
Yeah.
And then they also kind of could have needed him potentially in the 9th with bases loaded.
Right. So that was a little confusing. But the big thing for them, they got Jacob deGrom to get through that 6th inning. Getting him through 6 innings was huge. One thing I noticed when he came out of the game, this was a little odd. He comes out of the game, Buck Showalter, maybe we should call him Butt Showalter, because he went right for Jacob deGrom. If you are watching this, you can see that we're putting it on the board now. So if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're just listening, I'll try and explain it. Jacob deGrom goes back in the dugout, and it was very, very odd how Buck Showalter went about this. A full cuppage, if you will, of his butt, and then it was a little odd.
I don't know if you've seen the Key and Peele skit Slap Ass. It's a whole baseball clubhouse where it's a thing. You know, it's very common in baseball where
it's a baseball thing.
Yeah, you see the butt slaps. That was a little extended, but
so weird.
But things kind of turned around for the Mets after that. So maybe it was good luck. Let's just say maybe it was the good luck booty slap they needed.
If you're going to rub anybody's butt for good luck on the team, it's going to be the guy that's going to make $50 million. Yep. You know, not a bad, sure. So it worked. I can't, it's so weird. But Mets end up winning the game. It just ended a few minutes ago. It got a little hairy there in the 9th inning. Bases loaded. Josh Bell at the plate ends up grounding out. Mets needed it, obviously, because they go home if they don't win, but they get it done, which all leads up to tomorrow. Sunday, we get Game 3, do or die, in New York. I imagine it's going to be Chris Bassett, Joe Musgrove. I'm really pumped up for that. And that's the only Game 3 we're going to get.
I'm just excited we get a Game 3, and I'm excited. As we said, I'm excited it's this game because it can really go either way.
Who wins?
I picked the Mets, so I'm hoping that the Mets win, I guess. But at this point, I like both teams, and both teams have a good chance at winning this. So I picked Mets originally, so I'm going to stick with my original pick, but Padres are showing up.
I picked Mets originally as well, which is why I don't feel good about it. Thanks for watching. If you love Flippin Bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.